And just like that, we're back. UFC Vegas 107 awaits us after the UFC skips a week in action. Depending on when you're catching this, there's no fights taking place this upcoming weekend, or if you're catching this later on during fight week, of course, we didn't have any action take place. I hope you guys all had a great Memorial Day and you took full advantage of a nice open weekend. Or again, if you're catching this early, I hope you guys have some big plans on the horizon. All right, what we have waiting for us is a subpar card, as a lot of you guys know, but that seems to be the recipe, right? When the UFC skips a week of fights, that return card is going to be a lower level Apex type fight card, and then they'll build up to a pay-per-view event. We've seen this multiple times, and that's what's going on here. In the main event, we have Erin Blanchfield taking on Maycee Barber. I think it's an underrated fight. I mean, it is a main event slot, so maybe not exactly what you're looking for there, but this is an exciting fight. The winner of this match should line themselves up with, in my opinion, a #1 contenders bout after this, okay? Because if things shake out the way that I would like them to shake out, I would like to see the now #1 contender, the #1 ranked Natalia Silva, take on Valentina Shevchenko for the belt. Okay, that should be next. Okay, now the winner of this, I could see them facing off with the fighter like Jasmine Jasudavicius, who has been looking phenomenal. And then you also keep an eye on a matchup between Thug Rose Namajunas and Miranda Maverick. If Maverick goes out there and defeats Rose, she'll be on a 5-fight winning streak. So maybe you see her matched up with one of these upper echelon fighters in this division. I think that there's a lot going on towards the top of this division right now. It's pretty stacked up. You would like to see a little bit more depth, maybe down in the weight class, but I really like what I'm seeing here. Could you imagine if the UFC had got their hands on dangerous Dakota Decheva, who is still undefeated at 14-0, of course, fighting over in the PFL, one of the more electrifying women's fighters. Okay, I wish they had her in this division. I mean, it's a real shame there. Maybe eventually they will get a hold of her, as we've seen them recently just getting everybody. So many of these high-level Bellator fighters, you know, of course, Bellator no longer around, but they got their hands on all those fighters. Most recently, we have Aaron Pico, Patchy Mix is going to be fighting up, coming up soon. We'll be talking about him. And you want to see the UFC, at least I want to see the UFC just get a hold of all the highest level fighters in the world, get them into the octagon. Let's see who reigns supreme. Okay. Other than that, in the co-main event, we have the only other fight I'm going to just note real quick is Mateusz Gamrot taking on Leavitt Klein. I think Klein is a very promising fighter, and Gamrot still holds that #7th ranking next to his name. We know he's a high-level grappler. This is a solid test for the 30-year-old Klein, who when he's hitting on all cylinders, he's one of the more dangerous fighters in this division. If he gets a win here, he'll be ranked, and we'll see what's next for him. All right, guys, so won't hold you guys up. If you're new here, if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. If you all can hit that like button. We're going to start with the first fight. We'll work our way up towards the main event. I got timestamps here. I'll try to be nice and crisp with my evaluations in all these fights. We'll dissect the betting lines. If you guys want my official targets for the card, you guys know you guys can reach out to me, whether it's through Instagram or email. Shoot me a message. I'll give you further details there.
The teller.
She got a donk. She got a donk. She got a donk. Got a donk. Got a donk. Now, boys, I have to be careful here, as I may get a copyright infringement, because they're not going to be able to tell the difference between the actual track there and me hitting the vocals on what I believe is the Yin Yang Twins, getting some flashbacks to back in the day, sliding through the club. Guys, but I'm not just irresponsibly bringing up the cakes of Elise Ardelean, okay? I do have a very crucial point to them, as she will be taking on Rayanne dos Santos here. And the point is that Elise actually has quite the following on IG. So even though she's been struggling with her fighting career since joining the UFC, now she's 0-2. Okay, she definitely has something going on besides just fighting. And I'm actually quite serious. I think that she has to be making some solid money based off of her following. I think she has an OnlyFans and all that. On the other hand, when you're talking Rayanne Amanda, otherwise known as Rayanne dos Santos, this is a young fighter that really has a lot to lose. Okay, I don't know what other income she has coming in, and she has had some unfortunate situations take place as of recent when she's in the cage. A lot of people, in fact, the vast majority, did have her defeating Pooja Tamar, which actually, if you ask me, I was one of the people that felt that that fight really could have went either way. I thought that that was a much closer fight than people were stating online, dating back to that fight night. You take a look at the strikes. I mean, she was outstruck 99-86, even though, yes, she was landing the more significant strikes. But just, I felt that that was one of those fights where she was a hefty favorite, and people just felt that she should have got the nod based off that fact. A lot of people lost money on that fight. It was close. I think that she probably still won that fight, but it was a very close one. And by no means was it just a guaranteed victory for her. She needs to do more. She needs to be a little bit more active at times. Okay. Besides that, the Talita Al-Ansar fight, that's a fight that a lot of people thought that she won as well. Okay. Maybe that's a fight that she should have got the nod in there. So, I mean, she has to be very motivated. And you could also even bring up her fight against Denise Gomes, where she was a favorite going into that matchup. She was young at the time, just like 26 years old. All right. She did not get the W there, didn't get that contract. You have to believe that she is extremely motivated for this bout with Elise. And I think that we're going to see a little bit of a step up in volume and tenacity in her. Not to say that it's been that bad in the past, but I would like to see a little bit more from her. I just ran back that last Pooja Tamar fight. You can go to UFC India's YouTube page. You can watch the whole fight there. And yeah, she had her moments, but I want to see more from her. This definitely should be a fight that she should take. Okay, but maybe it's not as much of a guarantee as the line is stating, which some of you guys, I know you're gonna start giving me hell in the comment section. I know you guys are doing over and unders on how many times I'm gonna say the values in the dog, but I mean, we'll get to the odds here in a second. Elise Ardelean, just note this real quick. We have seen her kind of step up her game as of recently since joining the UFC. There was a point in time where she was in a 3-fight losing skid early on in her career, ending with a second-round submission loss to Weili Zhang. She then went on a 7-fight winning streak, although against lower-level fighters. Okay, that 7-fight winning streak where she was actually getting a good amount of finishes, okay, that led her to a short-notice UFC debut opportunity against Shauna Bannon. That was a fight that a lot of people had her winning. It was close. Okay, it was a very close fight. She was outstruck a little bit, but she had a good amount of control time. In fact, she had 5 minutes and 54 seconds of control time in that fight. She showed some toughness and grit. She followed that fight up with another L. Not saying that she should have won that fight. I had her losing for sure against Melissa Martinez, but it was interesting when you looked at the numbers where she actually outlanded Melissa 103-78 on the total strikes. Okay, but Melissa was landing more significant damage and was really using her footwork properly in that fight. But I'm just saying that Elise she is a low-level fighter, but does she have the ability to make this a fight that plays out closely, which Rayanne has showed she gets involved in those types of matches? Okay, I have Rayanne dos Santos winning a decision. I think that she keeps this fight standing. She has shown a pretty good takedown defense if Elise wants to try to push something sloppy there, as Amanda has posted an 88% takedown defensive ratio so far fighting under the UFC. Okay, and I'm going to say that she wins maybe like a unanimous 29-28 or maybe even a split decision. She is currently a minus 285 favorite, and it makes perfect sense to me that this line is dipping because she opened up as a minus 370, and that line is just way too wide for my liking, backing Rayanne there. And now she's coming back to reality a little bit, and I wouldn't be surprised if she even settles in as like a minus 240, 230, which seems to be much more accurate to me. Give me Rayanne to win this fight via decision. In the lightweight division, Marquel Mederos steps right back into the octagon. He was in there about a month and a half ago. He snuck off a split decision against Austin Hubbard. That was a very nerve-wracking fight for me as I had action in on him. Came down to that third round. I definitely want to circle back to that fight. That's a crucial fight that we need to dissect when we're talking Mederos here. He's taking on Bolaji Oki. Oki was in there about 7 months ago, and I also had an official play on him in his last fight. I want to make sure I'm bringing up some of my wins and losses here. Okay, I don't want to fluster any of you guys out there and come off too big-headed. That was a tough L that I took. And at the time, I was very hard on Oki because I felt that he would have eventually got a knockout if he would have kept that fight standing. He was starting to light up Duncan. It was him that initiated that takedown, which it looked pretty good. I mean, he showed some development with his wrestling, the way he was able to get Duncan to the mat, but he left his head out there, got caught in that guillotine choke. We are seeing that Chris Duncan has a very dangerous guillotine. Okay, you saw what he just did to Jordan Vichenik, caught him in a guillotine in that last fight. I mean, he could really crank some torque on that guillotine. So it doesn't look as bad in retrospect. Oki went completely out, and I'm expecting to see a very motivated version of him here. He was coming into that fight off a split decision victory over Kuwamba, but that was a fight. I mean, he outstruck him 61-35 on the total strikes, and Oki, although he's creeping up on 30, I still think that this is a developing fighter. He's just 29 years old, and he really has some raw tools. And one thing that he has going for himself here, which I'm circling back to that last fight that Mederos had, is that Mederos' takedown defense and an overall grappling was kind of exposed in that fight. I mean, you take a look at the numbers. It was brutal. Mederos was controlled for 7 minutes and 34 seconds in that fight against Hubbard, and it was very frustrating. But you also got to give him some credit, because at the end of that third round, man, he did get back up to his feet and showcased his dynamic striking. He's very fluid with his striking. He'll change stances, and he can land on you there. Okay, so that's one thing he has going for himself. But I was going to side with the dog here in Mederos, but the reason why I can't is I just remember how frustrated I was when he was getting taken down with ease and just at times having trouble getting back up to his feet. And I think that Oki is a fighter that may surprise with his wrestling, the way he was able to get Rip Duncan down at that one point in time. And I don't see Mederos being the type of fighter that has a guillotine like that in his back pocket. So I think if we see takedowns in this fight, it would be Oki that is getting those. And then as far as the striking goes, yeah, I really like what I've seen from Mederos, but Oki is a power puncher. He has a huge wingspan. You take a look at the frame here. Now it says that they both have a 70.1 inch wingspan here, but if you check some of the other metrics on these fighters, I mean, you'll see that Oki should have about a 4-inch reach advantage, actually, when you really dive into that. And that's what you see when you're watching him on tape. I mean, he has long arms, he has a lightning quick jab, and he could knock you out. Okay, out of nine of his victories, 5 of them come by way of KO. He's a heavy hitter, so he could hold his own there, but I just don't have enough faith to back Mederos here, because I'm worried that he'll be tripping over his shoelaces and be on his back. Okay, so I will take the favorite in Bolaji Oki, who right now, you're going to see Mederos as the dog right around a plus 155, and the comeback on Oki is going to be right around minus 180. I think that this line should be a little bit closer, and I do think that the value is going to be on the dog here. As I said, I was kind of flirting with picking Mederos. I won't do it based on the takedown defense and all that, but don't be surprised if we see some quick evolution in that part of his game. Obviously, he went right back to the drawing board, and that's what he's working on, and he's going to feel a little bit more comfortable having just been in the cage a couple weeks ago. So don't be shocked if you see some of that there. I don't know if I'm crazy about backing Oki as a minus 180, but I just won't pick Mederos based off just remembering that stress that he put me through. I'll say that Oki wins a decision here. I'm going to say that he doesn't get that KO. It's possible, but Mederos is young. He's fresh and should be able to take a shot. I think Oki mixes things up. It's a close fight. Give me Oki to win this fight via decision. Gotta donk. All right, I'm not going to do that to you guys. I want to apologize for even flirting with the idea of busting out the gotta donk vocals twice in one episode, and especially for bringing them out as we refer to Jordan Leavitt, the Monkey King. All right, I mean, he is quite the character. He's taking on Kurt Holobaugh here. Jordan Leavitt, if any of you guys are expecting to see him twerking in the cage, if he gets a win, I'll let you guys know right now, you're probably not going to see that. I just saw a recent interview from him. He just had his first child, I believe, and he says he's looking to put that whole gimmicky thing of him dancing and all that a little bit behind him. I guess at least as far as the dancing, referring to him clapping his cheeks and all that, I think he wants to be a little bit more professional, just so you understand that going into this fight. Now, his opponent, Kurt Holobaugh, I'm very familiar with him. He's been around for a long time. He's now 38 years old. He was just in there. I took an L on a dog play as he took on Alexander Hernandez, but that was a solid fight card for me. And I don't know, man, that was a fight that really could have went either way. I thought that Holobaugh probably deserved to get the W there, or I shouldn't say deserved. I'll say he potentially could have got the W there. I won't say deserved, because when you're getting taken down multiple times and you just can't get back up, the way he was in that fight, he was taking out 4 of 5 attempts there. He was controlled for 6 minutes and 39 seconds. mean, it was very frustrating, but we saw when he was on the feet, he was the superior striker. All right. He showed that junkyard dog that he has in him. But if you can't keep the fight standing, I mean, that's a problem. Okay. And that he wasn't able to do it. So I will not say deserved, but it was a very close fight. And if he can keep the fight standing here, yeah, definitely he can get the better of the striking exchanges against an awkward and quirky Jordan Leavitt. But how can you trust him to do that? Especially when we've seen that Leavitt he's kind of a high level grappler. I wouldn't say that his wrestling and his takedown offense is the best, but if he gets you down to the mat, I mean, he could really put in some work there. Yeah, he's lost 2 of his last 3 fights, but take a look at the level of competition. Okay, he was subbed against Chase Hooper and Paddy Pimblett. Those are high level fighters. Okay, Kurt Holobaugh is not on the level of a Hooper and a Pimblett when you're talking about their overall game, especially in regards to the grappling. Holobaugh gets way too comfortable laying on his back, holding guard, and I worry about him there. Take a look at some of the bigger victories that Leavitt's had. Okay, he's done it in wild style, man. Just knocked out Victor Martinez, caught him with that knee. Got a decision victory over Trey Ogden. That was a closer fight. He submitted Matt Sales, the boxer. How about the knockout of Matt Wyman? That's the fight that I have to bring up, man. When he slammed him on his head. Leavitt shows to be unorthodox and that he's willing to go out there and try to pull off wild stuff. And I could just see him eventually ending up in top position in this fight. And that's going to be the difference. I think that he could even find a finish down there. But I just don't trust Holobaugh to keep this fight standing where he then can butcher Leavitt up. I could see him hurting him there, even potentially getting a stoppage. I just do not trust Holobaugh. That's kind of the theme here with some of these early fights that we're talking about, is just not having enough faith to back these fighters to keep the fight standing where they really thrive. So you take a look at Holobaugh's 9 losses. Only 2 of them come by way of finish. He's only been subbed once. Okay, so he has good submission defense. I'm going to say that this fight makes it to the final bell, that he will survive, but I think that he'll lose this fight based on the fact of him being controlled and dominated for lengthy periods of time in this fight. And it's not out of the realm that Leavitt pulls off something wild. You never know with the dude there, but give me Leavitt to win this fight via decision. We'll take a look at the odds here. Leavitt opened up as a minus 163. He touched minus 155 as the line went the other way, and then now it creeps back down to him being a minus 170. Okay, I actually think that this is a pretty accurate line. I think that there may even be some value on the favorite here in Jordan Leavitt. Just do not trust Kurt Holobaugh. Yeah, he looks good when he can keep the fight standing, but he's 38 years old, creeping up on 39. And I don't know, man. This looks like Leavitt's fight. How about the fact that Oban Elliott is just 27 years old? We got a welterweight match here with him and Ramiz Brahimaj. The reason why I bring that up is when you take a look at him, he kind of looks a little bit more physically mature. This is a fighter that's a legitimate prospect here, if you want to look at him in that sense. I mean, the fight that he's coming off of is very impressive. He went out there and he finished up the tough Basil Hafez in the 3rd round. He really put a clinic on him in that match. And now he is on quite the winning streak. You think back to even his fight on Dana White's Contender Series against Kai Brito. He was the dog in that fight. That was a fun one. Even then, he showed that he has some real toughness and he has judo skills. I mean, he's a fighter that has a background in mixed martial arts from a young age. He's starting to put it all together here, and I'm starting to really look at him in a bright light. Now, his opponent, Ramiz Brahimaj, take a look at this. And I know, I say this kind of joking around because this is, I'm not a big believer in things like this, but I mean, maybe there's something you can get out of it. Maybe like a certain mindset as the fighter comes in off a win or a loss, but you run back his resume and it's been dating back to the Bilal Williams fight where he won that. It's been win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, nonstop with this dude. Okay. Every time he gets a W, he can never build off the momentum. Dating back to when he entered the UFC. All right. It's lost to Evan Cutts, win, lost to Justin Patterson, win against Carlos Martinez over in LFA. Then he gets that UFC debut fight where there was some real hype behind him in that match. Okay. He's frequent in the jiu-jitsu world and went in there. He took on Max Griffin. He got dominated in that fight. His ear was hanging off his head. It was nasty. Okay. Then he went and got a 1st round submission over my boy, Sasha Palatnikov. All right. From there, lost to Court McGee. And even there was some rumors, and I think he even talked about it having some I don't want to say mental issues, but just having some mental lapses going into his fights. So this is a guy that you don't always know what you're getting from him as he enters a fight. Is he all there? Is he confident in himself? But again, like I said, he'll go out there and dominate a lower level fighter like Michael Gilmore. Then he'll lose to Temba Garimbo. And then he's coming off a big victory where he knocked out Mickey Gall. A big victory. I mean, he went out there and knocked out Mickey Gall. Mickey Gall's been around for a long time, but he's really not on that level. And Oban Elliott is a massive step up. I think we're going to see that continued pattern here as he gets a W, but he cannot follow up that win with another one. Oban Elliott is going to be a problem for Ramiz here. I really believe that. Now, I like some of the technical skills that Ramiz possesses, but he kind of gets caught looking at his work. He's kind of stagnant at times, and I think that Oban will be much more fluid and will be looking to execute his next tactic of offense way quicker than Ramiz. Ramiz will be plotting, thinking about what he's going to do while Oban Elliott is just opening up. And you take a look at the volume there. I mean, it really correlates to what you watch on tape. Oban landing 4.26 with Ramiz just landing 2.26. This is not a fighter that you really can rely on to put that volume out there, okay? He's going to have that technical boxing stance, and he'll look to maybe hit you with a nice tight counter hook, but in the meantime, you could open up on him. Take a look at that number there. He's being absorbed at 4.04, and a lot of those numbers probably circle back to that Griffin fight, but no need to go on about this fight much longer. This is one of the bigger favorites on the card, and it's warranted. It's definitely warranted. And Oban Elliott opened up as a minus 480 over here on Bovada. He is now a minus 700. There is an extreme amount of confidence in him. I remember when I was looking at this line opening up early on, I was crossing my fingers that somehow this line would have dipped down. I didn't really think it would be the case, but I was hoping maybe somehow people were putting in stock to that victory he had over Gall, but it's just not the case here. The line movement makes a lot of sense to me. Just be careful targeting a line like that because you're really not going to get much in return. And Oban Elliott's 2 losses, if I remember correctly, both come by way of being knocked out. Okay, so if he makes a mistake, I remember one was against Mike Figlak, the Polish fighter, I believe, and then he was also knocked out once again after that. So if he makes one error in there, even when he's dominating, could cost him the fight. Is it really worth it to be chalking up a minus 700? I'm going to say Oban wins a dominating decision. Ramiz is shown to be pretty tough and durable, and when he starts to get dominated, you'll see him be very hesitant, so we may not see him engage as much. Give me a decision victory for Oban Elliott. So for the third time, we have a scheduled bout between Ketlen Vieira and Ellen DeGeneres with a little bit of TRT and giraffe syndrome, a.k.a. Maycee Chiasson. Of course, I say that just joking around. This is actually an important fight to the future of the women's bantamweight division. Top 5 ranked action. Take a quick look with me because, of course, we have that championship bout between Kayla Harrison and Juliana Pena set for June 7th, right? Besides that, we know this is kind of a shallow division, but there's some noise being made here when you're thinking of Norma Dumont, who is now on a 5-fight winning streak and who actually shows to be a pretty impressive fighter. Speaking of cakes, right? In this episode, we've had a lot of cake talk. We can also mention Norma Dumont. And then you could also mention Aileen Perez, who is now on a 5-fight winning streak in this division, talking about those cakes. We'll mention Jacqueline Cavalcante, who's looked really good. All right. And then you have Maycee Chiasson here taking on Ketlen Vieira. The winner of this fight, I think they're setting themselves up with, at the very least, a title eliminator after this, or you never know what's next, who's going to be fighting for the belt next. Because like I said, kind of shallow towards the top, but it's anyone's guess who's going to be next for the victor there. Besides the big elephant in the room, also, let me not forget, Amanda Nunes says she's returning to the fight game. So depending on what's going to go on there, but this is a big fight. I already broke this fight down as it was supposed to take place a couple months back. I think back in January or February it was February 22nd. They were supposed to face off, and they initially were supposed to face off back in 2024. All right. And in the middle of that, Chiasson's been looking good. She has 2 finishes. In the middle of that, she finished Penny Kianzad via submission in the first round, and then she just defeated Mayra Bueno Silva. Maycee Chiasson is a fighter that I really held in high regard as she came in from the Ultimate Fighter. She had that setback against Lena Landsberg. That was a fight where she was a massive favorite. She was held against the cage. But besides that, man, she's looked pretty damn good. Made a mistake against Raquel Pennington. We know how good she is. She was beating Irene Aldana before being hit in the 3rd round with that very weird upkick to the liver. She was winning that fight It was kind of like a fluky finish. I think that Maycee Chiasson is a pretty promising fighter, and I think that she's going to try to make a run at the title here. I don't think Ketlen Vieira is going to get in her way. Ketlen's good. We saw her in the Kayla Harrison fight have some success, just in regard to Kayla Harrison dominating pretty much everybody else. The fact that Vieira at times put a little bit of a fight up, all right? And she's had some other decent UFC victories, but at the end of the day, she took an L there. She was controlled for 7 minutes and 54 seconds, and Maycee Chiasson's a pretty well-rounded threat, and I could see Chiasson just getting the better throughout this fight, landing more damage. She's really coming in with a lot of confidence. She's feeling herself. She has a 4-inch reach advantage here. She's tall. She's physical. She can throw damage in the clinch. She can mix it up. And I will take Maycee Chiasson once again, just as I did the first time I broke this fight down. We take a look at the line as this line has had a lot of time to marinate, right? It was reopened on May 13th with Chiasson being an underdog as a plus 105 dog. We've seen some small action coming in on her. She's still technically an underdog here. She's right around a minus 103 right now. Again, but this fight, having being announced a couple of times, we've seen it move in. And I think that this is where it's probably going to settle going into the match. I like Chiasson to win this fight. I would like her even as high as like a minus 125, minus 130 favorite. I think that she should be the fighter that's the slight favorite going into it. So if you're getting plus action or anything around even odds, I think there's some value there. And we'll see if she could rise to the occasion and build off these last 2 victories. I'll take her for a decision. Hey guys, I just want to thank you for tuning in. Without you guys stopping by, obviously this channel would not be chugging along. I appreciate you greatly. I also want to say, if anyone's looking to work with me for my official plays, you guys can reach out to me and I will give you further information there. And I have that special offer always available. If anyone's looking to sign up to a new sports book, I will give you my referral link to Bovada. If you sign up, I'll give you an entire fight card package for all my exclusive bets. Thank you guys. We got an intriguing match here with 2 high-level BJJ practitioners in Allan Nascimento and Jafel Filho, 2 Brazilian fighters that are in their 30s, have a good amount of pro experience. All right, I'm really interested to see who gets the better of the grappling exchanges here. Allan Nascimento is coming off about a 2.5-year layoff. He had a lot of fights fall through. And for the most part, they're his fault. Right? He's had some injuries. He fell ill leading up to one fight. He was supposed to take on Tim Elliott, Bolaji. Had an initial bout with Jafel scheduled that fell through. Here we are. Now, this isn't the first time we've seen him come in off a long layoff and perform. So you can note that when he took that split decision L to Julian Paiva, which was a fight on the Brazilian Dana White's Contender Series episode there, he didn't fight for quite a while, came back, got a first round submission over there in Brazil. He followed that up with a somewhat impressive UFC debut performance against Tager Ulanbekov over in Abu Dhabi. A lot of people had him winning that fight. Went to a split decision. It was a close one. Followed that up with 2 victories in a row. Took out Jake Hadley and then just submitted Carlos Hernandez. Or I shouldn't say just. It was quite a bit ago. Like I said, 2.5 years ago. But I think that he can come in here and pick right back up from where he left off. Of course, he trains at a shoot box. This is an interesting clash in the sense that Jafel trains with Nova União. So you have 2 powerhouse Brazilian gyms here. I'm excited to see how this fight takes place, like I said. And I'm going to lean towards Nascimento's way, even coming in off the layoff, based on the fact that he has a little bit of a size advantage here. He's pretty big for this division. And in those jiu-jitsu scrambles, I think that the size could be the difference when you're talking about 2 very high caliber technical jiu-jitsu players. So we'll see how that goes. Another factor is that I expect that we see Nascimento step up his striking, right? He's been away for some time, training it over there at shoot box. I expect to see that continued development in his striking. And we've seen Jafel take a lot of damage to his legs at times. And yeah, he had that knockout against Robert Echeverria on DWCS and hit him with a nasty hook, got the finish there. But I would say that his striking may be a little bit more suspect. I think that he may be a little bit more reliant on his jiu-jitsu in a fight that plays out a little bit longer. I can see Nascimento chipping away with the leg kicks and having some success with his hands. And I'll just lean towards the bigger fighters away here. This should be interesting. Another factor I like for Nascimento here is the fact that we've never seen him finished. On the other hand, you take a look at Jafel. he has been subbed in 2 of his 3 losses. Okay, so how is he going to look when he's not able to have that early success, as Nascimento has proven to be tough to be finished? Okay, how is he going to look? Is he potentially going to be open to being finished in his own right? Maybe do we see Nascimento catch him in a sub late in this fight, similarly to what Makhachev did to him, caught him in that rear naked choke in the 3rd round. Way back in 2017, we saw Luan Mateusz catch him in a 3rd round sub as well via rear naked choke. You know what? I'm actually going to say that Nascimento gets a 3rd round submission victory. How about that? 3rd round sub via rear naked choke for Nascimento. He's a -175 right now. He opened up as a -122. Right, so this fight opened up almost at pick'em type odds. We've seen a lot of action coming his way. That's typically a good sign. Okay, there's probably some merit to that line movement. Maybe something's leaking and he's ready to go. We know he surrounds himself with some good people, and we probably are going to see the best version of himself. That's what I'm expecting. Even coming off the long layoff, I think we see the best version of Nascimento that we've seen as he starts to really cruise into the prime of his career. Got the hybrid mixture of Randy Johnson and my boy High Jive. Shout out to my boy High Jive. And I'm referring to Zachary Reese there. Now, that's specifically when Reese enters the cage with the mullet. That's where the whole Randy Johnson thing comes into effect. He'll be taking on a version of Dustin Poirier that's been injected with human growth hormone since he was a tween. I'm referring to Duško Todorović. All right. Hope you guys like my little comparisons here. Obviously, I'm just having some fun with it. Now, this fight, this should be a fun one. And I'll tell you why. Zachary Reese is coming in as a big favorite, but this is a fighter that's pretty much boom or bust. I mean, he can go out there and finish you up in devastating fashion, but we know he is prone to being finished in devastating fashion. So do not completely overlook Duško here. Potential trap alert. I'm kicking this segment off by letting you guys know. I know we haven't been super consistent with the trap alert, but here it is again. Potential trap alert. Now, Reese comes into this fight off of that brutal KO loss to Asimov Bekoyev, who we're all quickly understanding that Bekoyev is a legitimate threat in this division. He followed up that W with another impressive finish over Ryan Loder, the American wrestler, an Ultimate Fighter winner. So you keep an eye on Bekoyev. But back to Reese, I mean, he was on a 2-fight winning streak going into that match. I mean, he's a real fight finisher. Wasn't able to get Jose Medina out of there, but you take a look at all the other work he's done. I mean, this is a fighter that looks to get the finish early on, okay? And if he's not getting the finish early on you, then he's getting finished early on, right? Both of his losses come in the 1st round. Let's not forget what Cody Brundage did to him. That's when we had those back-to-back crazy TKO slams, and that was not a good look for him. He held on to the sub too long there, and that kind of circles me back to the point that I don't really look at Reese as a reliable fighter, a fighter that you should be backing when he has a high line next to his name like he does in this matchup. I still will say that I really hope that Reese puts it all together because I think he's an entertainer, okay? And I like that the UFC gave him a matchup like this. This is a winnable matchup. He's a fighter that he's never going to make a run at the title, okay? Not even probably. I'll say he's not going to make a run at the title. This is a fighter that's meant to go out there and entertain us, okay? He's going to bring the fight. Something wild's going to happen in there. And I want to see him string off some W's and really solidify his UFC roster spot, okay? Because it'll be a treat for us, okay? You're going to see those tough performances by him. You're going to see him brutally finish, but you're also going to see him brutally finish other fighters. He brings in crazy traits to the cage. He's long, he's big. He could pull off a sub on you. He has some nasty offensive jiu-jitsu skills. He can knock you out in awkward fashion. And when you're talking Duško Todorović, this is a fighter that's been knocked out or finished via TKO in 4 of his 5 losses. Also, there was the CLD loss where more recently where he injured his leg. There was the knee injury there. But I mean, this is a fighter that's been brutally KO'd quite often. You think of the Mansur Abdul Malik fight in his last one, the Chidi Njokuani 1st round KO loss where he got hit with the elbow. So there's been a lot of that. The Punalehi Siriano 1st round KO loss. And I'm going to say, and I'm hoping this is the case, but I want to be clear. I'm not extremely confident in it. I'm going to say that Zachary Reese can get Duško out of there. I'm going to say that he gets the KO in this fight. I'm going to say he gets a 1st round KO in some type of awkward manner, not just blitzing and throwing something long and wild in there. But I also can see him being countered as he's overly aggressive. And I can see Duško catching him with something. But I like the unders in this fight. I don't think that this fight goes past the halfway marker. I think we're going to see something wild happen here. Make sure you understand that Duško is not the fighter that you saw when he was the main event on Dana White's Contender Series, right? Where he took on Teddy Ash, where he fought a very boring fight, just pushing him up against the cage. That's not who he is. Don't let that fight take the full attention of what you think of him. I mean, all his other fights ended very early, a lot of first round finishes. I mean, I had a first round knockout over Michel Pereira, right? And then even after getting the contract, like I said, it's been boom or bust for him. But even when you take a look at some of the success that he's had in the cage, first round knockout over Maki Pitalo, second round KO over Jordan Wright, right? He brings it more than maybe he gets credit for, at least to what I've thought about him sometimes. And I think that these guys are going to clash and we're going to see an early finish. I think that the betting value is on Duško. All right. And I'm almost tempted to put something on him when you're looking at him as high as a plus 230. All right. And it's tough for me because I am a Zach Reese fan. I really want him to win this fight. I think that he's more likely to get a KO, but do I want to chalk up minus 280? And you guys think about what I'm talking about here for one of you, you amateurs that's going to hop up in the comment section and be like, oh, the teller is saying the value's in the dog once again. Okay. When you're talking about the long haul, when you're talking about profiting long-term, I mean, are you really going to profit targeting Zachary Reese on a money line at minus 280? Okay. He may come through on the night, but when you really put the whole recipe together, if you continuously target those types of favorites, do you really think you're going to profit long-term? Okay. This is trying to enlighten some of you guys on how to profit long-term. Okay. The value is on the underdog here. I'm telling you guys right now, take a look at the under. And if you really have to have action on that fight, maybe you could look to grab Zachary Reese in the first round or early on. Maybe you get some value on a line like that. But this fight's going to play out closer than what that line says. But give me Zach Reese to get a first round knockout. Some 205 action as Dustin Jacoby looks to build off a big upset victory. At least at the time it was. I was there live for that, where he finished up Vitor Petrino in the third round. Obviously, people have pumped the brakes on Vitor Petrino. All right, he's taking on Bruno Lopez here. Bruno Lopez has had some recent success. He comes in off that victory over Magomed Gachiasulov. I'll say this, Gachiasulov, I mean, dude looks the part, but I think that there was a clear indication that he really wasn't that guy when we saw him in there against Brendanson Ribeiro, where he went through early adversity. He eventually took the fight over late using kind of grappling and whatnot, but I think there was a clear sign that he's just not a high-level fighter. So the fact that Lopez went out there and defeated him, I'll put a little bit of stock into it, but not too much. And I won't put too much stock into his victory on DWCS over Mikhail Sazhiniani, the Georgian fighter who was somewhat one-dimensional, kind of tough, but came in flabby. And I mean, I don't put too much stock into that fight. I mean, I'll give him credit for getting the second round finish there. But let's not forget, Lopez is a fighter that was brutally KO'd in his first stint on DWCS against Brendanson Ribeiro, who, not to say his name in a negative light. I mean, that dude, he has some pop, he has some power, okay, but the chin has been tested and damaged. I think that Dustin Jacoby can test his chin here. In fact, kind of jump into it. I'm going to say that Dustin Jacoby finds a knockout in this fight. I think that Jacoby has a little bit more left to offer the fight game. I know he's 37 years old, but he's a high caliber striker. We all know about his kickboxing background. You know, he left the UFC, used to fight in the middleweight division, left the UFC, was fighting over in Glory, and he really polished up his striking. And yes, he's taken some recent L's, but take a look at them, really dive into them. First and foremost, I thought he defeated Khalil Roundtree. The Alonzo Menafield fight, I thought that he won that fight as well. And he was pretty much dominating every round up until the point that he got landed on with that one big strike and he was hurt. And the judges would give Menafield those rounds. Okay, so just kind of understanding those two losses there. Azamat Mirzakhanov is still undefeated. He's a stud. All right, he has the two knockout victories over Kennedy and Vitor. And then he was knocked out by Dominic Reyes. But Dominic Reyes, man, and I'll be the first to admit, I didn't think that this would be the case. I mean, this late resurgence that Reyes has had has been phenomenal. I was just there live for the last knockout victory, another knockout victory that Reyes just had. I mean, he's an animal. So maybe don't put Jacoby under the magnifying glass too much for that loss. I think that Jacoby is pretty high level with his striking, and I think that he should be able to keep it there. And I trust him a little bit more so than I do and a fighter of Bruno Lopez, who seems to be well-rounded and pretty mature for where he's at right now. But I think that Jacoby's quicker, more athletic, even at 37. And I think that he'll be a step ahead. And I'll pick Jacoby to get a KO. But even if he doesn't get the KO, he should be ahead on the scorecards as he keeps the fight standing and gets the better of the striking exchanges. Now, of course, you have to note this is a light heavyweight fight, and it only takes one on either side of things. Okay, if Lopez can hit him with a nice counter shot, he could be KO'd as well. Jacoby can be KO'd as well. But I think that it's more likely Jacoby is the victor here. Let's take a look at the betting odds. Some pretty substantial line movement as Jacoby opened up on May 13th as a slight -135 favorite. Within a week's time frame, he is now a -172. And just the other day, he was a -177. Okay, so people feeling pretty confident in Jacoby here, at least early on. We'll keep an eye on the line movement. But I like Jacoby to win this fight. And I don't have a problem with anything -180 and down. I think that that's pretty accurate. Where the value would have been for sure would have been on that -135, -145 type of line on the veteran here, who has a little bit more to offer the fight game here. Give me Jacoby to win this fight via KO. So I have this fight rated as being one of the harder fights to pick on this card, which is a good sign, right? That kind of points towards this being a very competitive match. I think this should be a treat here. At 170, we have Seok Hyun Ko taking on Billy Goff. I want to kick things off with talking a little bit about Ko, who comes off that Dana White's Contender Series victory over Igor Cavalcante. All right, he was as high as a +400 underdog in that match. If you guys remember, Cavalcante was the huge Brazilian fighter, and Ko had a lot of success against him. He outstruck him. He had success grappling against him. If you remember in the third round, he took him down, rained down some ground and pound. He fights out of the southpaw stance. He has some pop in his strikes, hence the name the Korean Tyson. Okay, this is a fighter that's really being backed over there in South Korea. The Korean Zombie has a lot of praise for him. He surrounds himself with the legends of Asian mixed martial arts. When you're thinking of fighters like Yushin Okami, or as you see him here, getting in work with Dong Hyun Kim, who was, I believe, a black belt in judo, but was a fighter that had a lot of success with his striking, had a lot of big knockouts back in the day, the stun gun. All right, so I really like who he's surrounding himself with, and I think that's why we're seeing him quickly take his game to a whole nother level. Yes, I mean, you could take a look at his 2 losses. They don't look the greatest, where he was knocked out in both of them. Got knocked out most recently by Han Seol Kim. That was a fighter that went on to fight on the road to UFC, I believe. And then very early on, he was knocked out by Sasha Palatnikov, a fighter that fought in the UFC. As you guys know, a friend of mine. So he got finished in the second round there, a pretty high-level striker. All right, so since then, though, he's really starting to put it together, and I think that this is a fighter that's under the radar. On the other hand, there are some things that Goff is doing that I really like. Okay, when you take a look at that last fight that he had against Trey Waters, all right, he showed extreme toughness. Okay, he pressured all throughout that fight, but then it's a double-edged sword, right? He looked good with some aspects of his offensive game, but defensively, there's some major flaws going on. He takes way too much damage. You take a look at the numbers. He's absorbing 5.71 strikes per minute, but he also is landing 8.56. There's extreme volume going on there. He shows that he can finish you early on. Take a look at the fight he had before that against Yusaka Kinoshita, a fighter that was once pretty hyped up by including myself. Okay, he finished him in the first round. Before that, he had that first round knockout on Dana White's Contender Series. I don't put too much merit into the level of opposition there, as he defeated Shimon Smitrotsky, who I think was undefeated at the time. But still, when you take a look at who he is as a fighter, I'm not too high on him. Before that, had a lot of success as a young fighter fighting over in Cage Titans and CES. A lot of finishes, and he's a well-rounded fighter. Goff is a well-rounded fighter. He's pretty slick with his boxing skills. He'll look to take you down. He's starting to mix kicks into his game. And when you look at this matchup, right, one thing that really frustrated him or kind of cost him in the Waters fight was as he was looking to close the distance and land offensively, he was being touched up, but Waters has a freakish frame for this division. All right, this is a different matchup here. Ko doesn't have that same type of frame. Okay, so I think that Goff will be able to close the distance and have some offensive success. But with that being said, I like the way that Ko has been fighting as of recently. Early on, we've seen him a lot more aggressive. That's where it cost him those 2 knockout losses. As of recently, he's much more measured and fighting out of the southpaw stance. I think he's going to give Goff some issues. I think that he's going to work the leg kicks, and I can see Ko countering with some heavy boxing strikes with his hands. I can see him dipping and ripping with some heavy hooks. And I also like the fact that Ko is willing to travel to get in that high level work, as he's putting a lot of time over at AKA as of recently. And I think that's part of what's taken his game to another level here. Man, I've been back and forth with where I'm going to go with my selection here, and I am settling in with the Ko pick. I think that Ko has shown to be a fighter you got to kind of keep an eye on. I think that it's not just, I don't think that he's just being overly hyped from that upset performance that he had in DWCS. I think there's something to who he is as a fighter, and Goff is good, and he's young, and he'll probably take that next step too. He took a lot of damage in that last fight. We have seen Goff finish before. I think that this is a fight where we see a finish one way or another. I'm sensing someone gets a knockout, and I'm going to say that Ko gets the KO. But you like that there? Ko gets the KO. But I will not be shocked if Goff lands a damaging strike and knocks Ko out as well. I think that this is going to be a fun fight. Give me the underdog and Seok Hyun Ko, who opened up as a plus 142 and is now plus 127. This will be an interesting betting line. I'm very interested to see where it closes at as these two men make the walk to the cage. I think it'll be much closer to even odds, especially if Ko looks good on the scales, which I would like to see him shred up a little bit more so, but he's a promising fighter. This is a fun fight. So this fight card has gotten a lot of slack, but it most certainly has nothing to do with the co-main event bout here as Mateusz Gamrot takes on Leavitt Klein. I love the fact that the UFC is throwing Klein in there with the number 7th ranked Gamrot when Klein doesn't even have a number next to his name currently. I also love the fact that they're doing this in the sense that Klein has struggled in the past against grapplers, and now they throw him in there with one of the biggest grappling threats in the division. They want to see if he's going to sink or swim. Klein, in my opinion, is somewhat of a dark horse in this division. If he's able to take his grappling to that next level, right, this is a fighter that could be a serious threat, right? The power that he possesses in his legs. We've seen him go out there and land nasty head kick KOs. He has big power in his hands. He fights out of the southpaw stance, and he can just land damage on you in a variety of ways, okay? He'll crack you with an elbow. He'll do a little bit of it all. I do believe that he is much more of a threat as far as his striking goes. Not to say that Gamrot doesn't have an arsenal there as well, because people kind of look at him as just a grappler, but he does have some striking. But I for sure have Klein as the better striker and just a much more dangerous fighter as this fight's at range, okay? But that's a big if he's going to be able to keep it there. You take a look at some of his recent work. He's on a 4-fight winning streak, which led him to that draw against Herbert, which was a fight that he probably should have dropped, right? There was a point deducted on Herbert due to a groin strike, if I remember correctly. Otherwise, he would have lost that fight 29-28. Maybe you had him winning it 29-28, depending how it went. But a lot of people were on the Herbert side there. Herbert, not a bad fighter, and I think that was just part of the growing pains that Klein has been going through. He was a younger fighter. He was about 28 at the time. Before that, had a victory over Mason Jones, which has aged very well. But let me not just gloss over the victory he had over Ignacio Bahamondes, who is a fighter that is really putting it together. He outstruck him 94-62. He controlled him for 6 minutes and 5 seconds. And it's important that I bring that up as well, because later on in his career, these last couple of fights, we've seen him have success with his grappling, right? He controlled Roosevelt Roberts for a substantial amount of time as well, which we know we don't really rate Roberts that highly, but you see that he's putting in that work with his grappling. Because if you go back to some of his early L's in the UFC, right, it was the grappling that cost him. Mike Trezano was able to take him down quite a few times in that fight, and that's why he didn't get his hand raised there. Nate Landwehr was able to have a lot of success with the grappling. Eventually, he caught him in an anaconda choke in the 3rd round. I really feel confident in saying that Klein, since those couple early losses, has just put in so much work and sharpening that aspect of his game. When you take a look at his overall UFC numbers too, he's posted a 91% takedown defensive ratio. And a lot of that is due to fighters continuously trying to test him there after he had early adversity in those fights, and him having success now defending. Okay, so the question here though is he going to be able to replicate the recent success like in that field against a fighter that is towards the top of the game in this division when it comes to looking to expose your grappling, right? Gamrot is the type of fighter that doesn't really care to go out there and perform in the sense of entertaining for the fans, right? This is just a high-level fighter that will do whatever it takes to get his hand raised, right? We saw that at times against Arman Tsarukyan in a fight that I thought that he should have lost, that main event fight. The vast majority of people had Arman Tsarukyan winning that fight, but it was the grappling that paid dividends, right? Those late takedowns kind of helped him get that decision there. And Tsarukyan's high level. I don't believe that Gamrot is the same fighter that he was in that night. In fact, I would probably say that was a prime Gamrot back in 2022, 2023. He did not look good against Beneil Dariush. The Jalen Turner fight, he went through adversity in it. Okay, that fight was a split decision victory for him. It was close. Okay, he did go through adversity in Turner right around that time. And after leading up to it, I know he had some big wins too, like what he did to Bobby Green, but he kind of dipped off and eventually cruised into retirement now. The Rafael Fiziev victory was due to an injury. He beat an aged RDA, and then he just lost to Dan Hooker, right? He wasn't able to have that late success continuously with the takedowns, and then Hooker started to land damage. Judges went his way, okay? And I think that Klein should really take a deep dive into the tape of the Dan Hooker fight, okay? That's what he needs to do. Stuff takedowns, land damage, and if the fight even goes that late, right? Even if it goes 15 minutes, because I think that Klein has a lot of potential to get anybody out of there, including Gamrot, to get him out of there early. If Klein lands a big strike early on or at any time in this fight, we could easily see this fight not make it to the final bell. So I'm going to give you my decision here in 2 seconds. Just want to also say Klein has a solid frame for this division. He is built like a superhero, and Gamrot also has a nice physique here, but Klein, 30 years old. All right, I think we're going to see him take his game to another level. I'm taking the dog here in the co-main event. I think that Klein can get a knockout. In fact, I'll pick him to get a knockout in this spot. But even if he doesn't, he'll be the fighter landing more significant damage. And I think that we see kind of a tired Gamrot late in this fight. Maybe he has some early takedowns, but he doesn't continue to have that success. You see him breathing heavily like he was against Turner at times and Hooker at times. And I think that Klein gets his hand raised here. And I'm excited for this fight. Now, it's a close one. We may see Gamrot go out there and kind of expose Klein and show that there's levels to this. We may see him kind of replicate what happened in the Nate Landwehr and Mike Trezano fights, but that was a long time ago. That was a much younger version of Klein, and I'm gonna pick Klein here. And I'm excited for this fight here. So, Klein opened up as a plus 122. We've seen him close the gap as much as being a plus 110 minuscule underdog, but now he's back up to a plus 133. And I think that people just have real concerns about him being taken down and exposed down in the mat against a high level fighter like Gamrot. But I was nearing going that way, but I'm going to stick with my gut here. I'm going to pick Klein to get a knockout. So the UFC once again throws Erin Blanchfield in a main event slot. It was about a year ago that she main evented against Manon Fiorot, which was essentially an eliminator to fight for the belt. Manon went on to fight Valentina Shevchenko after that. Erin Blanchfield, since that L, she bounced back with the big victory over Rose Namajunas. I want to circle back to that fight here in a second. She's taking on Maycee Barber here. This is top 5 ranked action in the division, and I think there's a reason why the UFC is throwing Blanchfield in these types of main events. I think that they kind of understand that she's going to be a figure in this division for some time to come. She's just 26 years old. And stylistically, you could definitely say this is a solid matchup for Blanchfield, as Barber has struggled at times with her takedown defense. That's exactly what Blanchfield is going to look to do here. That's what she consistently has looked to do in all of her bouts, really. I mean, she's working on her striking, but I mean, what she wants to do is pressure you, take you down, and have success down on the mat. And when she's not able to have success doing that, there's a pretty high rate of her not looking good in the cage. Okay. I'm highlighting the Manan fight, if you didn't catch on there, right? She was not able to get Manan down to the mat. She struggled mightily in that last main event spot. Okay. But you have to love the way that she bounced back against Rose Namajunas. Against Rose, right? She took her down 2 times on 8 attempts, but controlled her for about 9 minutes. Okay. And that was the difference in that fight. That fight came down to a round, and it was her getting that fight down to the mat that took it, as far as I'm concerned, if you remember how that fight played out. And Rose is a high-level fighter. She's been around for a long time, but she's not a fighter that's past her prime or that was aged. I think that Rose was still a very dangerous version of herself, and Blanchfield showed to continue to develop as a fighter, that she went back to the drawing board after the L. And as she's only 26 years old, I do believe we see the best version of her. Okay, she's had a lot of success with her grappling, dating back to when she made her UFC debut against Miranda Maverick, and that was her second fight in the UFC, following the Alpar fight, where she was a huge underdog, and she went out there and pulled the upset off of Maverick. Okay, since then she's just going in there submitting girls left and right, and including having a victory over Talia Santos, who is a high-level grappler. This is a tough fight for Maycee Barber, and if Maycee Barber looks anything similar to what she looked like when she fought Andrea Lee, which was a fight that half the fight world had her losing. If you really take a look at like the media scoring and verdict and all that, I mean, a lot of people had her losing that fight. She was on her back for quite a bit of time. You take a look at the numbers here. She was controlled for 5 minutes and 20 seconds. She was taken down 5 times on 5 attempts, right? That's not a good look. You could look back at the Roxanne Modafferi fight, but that was a fight where she was injured early on. So, take that one for what you will. She has a first-round finish over Jillian Robertson, who's a high-level grappler. She kind of caught Robertson a little bit earlier in her career and finished her up in the first round, which was important. If you remember the JJ Aldrich fight, she started off slow. She was kind of getting pieced apart, but then dug deep and got that second-round finish. I mean, there's a lot of exciting action that you could refer to when you're looking at her resume. She's a much more marketable fighter, and I would think that the UFC would want her to win, but I don't know, because I don't know why they would give her this matchup. This is a tough one for her. I got to lean towards Blanchfield's way, okay? And I will say that I was a little bit back and forth, because the fact is we haven't seen Barber in the cage and the octagon for over a year, as she comes in off of a lot of success, right? Her last fight was against Caitlin Chikogian, but she knocked out Amanda Ribas before that. And she's having some recent success, and she's a tenacious striker. If she shows that continued development in her takedown defense, or just shows the fact that if she's taken down, she could jump back up, she's probably going to be the fighter that's having a lot more success in those striking exchanges, and could potentially even get a TKO. I mean, don't really bank on that in a woman's fight like this, but I mean, she has some strengths there. But when it's all said and done, let me cut to the chase here, guys. I think that Blanchfield's grappling is going to be a little bit too much. It's going to pay dividends. It's going to be the difference, and her snagging up at least 3 rounds. Okay, so I'll say that Blanchfield wins this fight 48-47, and it's going to be due to her getting takedowns and solidifying rounds. So I will take Blanchfield in the main event. She opened up as a -175. We've seen her touch that -170. The line was maybe starting to go that way, but then take a look, man. As of recently, we see a lot of action coming in on her. She was just a -210 back on May 21st, and now she's right around. She's a 2-1 favorite. Okay, and I like Blanchfield here. I would much rather have her obviously as like a -175, and that's kind of where I have her capped, more like a -160 to -170. I would say that -200 is pushing it, but I'll be clear. I think that the grappler gets it done here. I think she wins a decision. All right, guys, that's going to wrap this one up. Of course, I'm going to hit you with some parting words, but I want to say real quick, if you guys tune into the show regularly, if you're getting a little bit more familiar with me, if you're new here, if you haven't already hit that subscribe button, please do. If you guys can all smash that like button before you depart, it really means a lot to me, and it helps my channel grow here. So please, guys, if you could. And then as far as some parting words, just something simple, something related to us going into the summer, the weather warming up. I would like to motivate you guys and challenge all you guys that are listening to this right now. I challenge you to take your health to the next level. I challenge you guys to at least be getting into the gym 2 to 3 times. For those of you guys that are not really even working out that often. And for those of you guys that are already working out, I challenge you to take your game to another level. Maybe bump it up to 4, or just push a little bit further, push a little bit more in the gym, or clean up your diet a little bit more. So feel good. Make sure you guys are hitting up the beach on the weekends, or hitting up your whatever pool you got if you're inland, or whatever you guys got going on. If there's a lake or river, make sure you guys are feeling good and taking care of your health, and just having a lovely, happy summer. That's what I wish you guys all to have. And that starts with you taking accountability and making some moves that better yourself. All right, guys, I'll leave you with that. Signing out, Teller.
The Teller.